Today on Old Penny Coins HD, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of Buffalo nickels and revealing 5 of the rarest and most valuable coins you could ever find. These legendary nickels have stories that span over a century, hidden details that even seasoned collectors might miss, and values that could surprise you. Stick around as we uncover why these coins are so highly sought after and how you might spot one in your own collection. You won't want to miss a single moment. There is a moment in American coin history when metal was not just currency, but a living portrait of a nation searching for its identity. And if you hold the 1920 Buffalo nickel, you are holding more than a coin. You are holding a story carved out of the rugged American frontier, shaped by an artist who wanted to capture the true spirit of a people, and minted during a time when the United States was rising from the impact of war into a new era of hope, ambition, and cultural pride. And today we dive deep into that incredible journey. Because the 1920 Buffalo nickel is not just rare metal. It is a gateway into a world where every strike, every line, every image carries the heartbeat of a changing nation. The story of the 1920 Buffalo nickel begins in a United States that was transforming rapidly as the 20th century gained momentum, a country shifting from rural landscapes to industrial cities, a society pushing forward with new inventions, bold ideas, and expanding culture, yet still holding tightly to the traditions and memories of the land and the people who shaped its past. And in the middle of this, transformation. The U.S. Mint sought a new design for the 5-cent piece, a design that would express the strength, the courage, and the heritage of America. And for this bold mission, the Mint turned to the talented sculptor James Earl Fraser, whose childhood experiences on the Western frontier and his deep respect for Native American culture guided every stroke of his artistic vision. Fraser believed that the true identity of America lived in the faces of the native people and in the rugged strength of the great American bison. And so he created a coin unlike any other before it, a coin that carried a proud Native American portrait on one side and the mighty buffalo on the other, presenting a powerful statement of heritage, resilience, and natural beauty. And when the Buffalo nickel first entered circulation in 1913, it caught the attention of the nation, not just as currency, but as a miniature piece of sculpture, a work of art that people admired, respected, and collected. And by the time the year 1920 arrived, the coin had already become an icon of American culture. The year 1920 was a moment of dramatic change for the United States. The aftermath of World War I was still shaping politics, economics, and daily life, and the country was stepping into a decade of prosperity, innovation, and cultural expansion, often described as the Roaring Twenties. And during this time, the Buffalo nickel continued to flow through the hands of millions, connecting everyday commerce with the deep historical roots of the country. And the 1920 issue played a special role in the series because it marked a steady transition in minting quality, population growth, and artistic wear, patterns that today help collectors identify valuable pieces and rare variants. Minted primarily at the Philadelphia Mint, the 1920 Buffalo nickel reflects a fascinating blend of older minting techniques and evolving technology, leading to a variety of strike qualities across surviving examples. Some coins show crisp, strong details of the Native American profile, with visible braids, feathers, and facial texture, while others display softer, weaker strikes, especially on the high points caused by rapid production and metal flow challenges that became common throughout the series. And on the reverse, the Great Buffalo often shows noticeable wear on the shoulder hump and legs, which is one of the first areas to lose detail due to the natural high points of Fraser's sculpted design. The significance of the 1920 Buffalo nickel in coin history also stretches beyond its artistic beauty and into the cultural environment of the era, as Americans traveled, expanded, and built new communities. The presence of this powerful design in everyday trade served as a reminder of the land's early history and the people who walked it long before the modern nation was formed, and every coin carried that message in silence, passing through countless hands across the states, telling its story without words. Collectors today see the 1920 Buffalo nickel as a treasure because it represents a turning point in craftsmanship, American culture, and numismatic history. And while millions were minted, only a fraction survive in high grade due to the heavy wear the design naturally experienced in circulation, making well-preserved examples especially valuable and deeply admired and beyond its financial worth. The coin carries a sense of authenticity and national pride, making it a centerpiece in many collections and a permanent symbol of the American spirit. From its artistic birth under James Earl Fraser, to its journey through the pockets of early 20th century Americans, to its place today in the hands of historians, collectors, and storytellers, the 1920 Buffalo nickel remains one of the most captivating coins the United States has ever produced. And as we explore its details, its history, its symbolism, and its lasting impact, you will discover why this small piece of metal holds a story powerful enough to fill an entire 2-hour journey into the heart of America. 1920. Buffalo Nickel. We step into a world where every detail of its design carries a story, from the artistic lines carved into the metal to the powerful meaning behind every symbol. And when we look closely at the obverse, the front side of the coin, we see a portrait that is far more than a simple engraving. It is a tribute to the Native American people whose presence shaped the earliest chapters of the continent. And James Earl Fraser did not base this image on one singular person, but on a blend of features inspired by 3 distinguished Native American leaders whose identities have been discussed for decades, including Iron-Tailed Two Moons and possibly John Big Tree. And this merging of features created a face that represented the strength, the pride, and the heritage of Native America. Rather than portraying only one individual, it conveyed the spirit of an entire culture. This powerful portrait became one of the most iconic faces in American numismatics. And when you look into the eyes of the figure, you see a quiet intensity, a story of history, survival, and honor captured in the texture of the cheekbones, the curve of the jaw, and the deep lines that reveal character and resilience. And during the year 1920, as the nation was stepping into a modern age, this traditional portrait created a bridge between the past and the present, reminding Americans of the people who first inhabited the land and shaped its early legacy while the country was moving toward skyscrapers, radios, automobiles, and broader national ambitions. Turning to the reverse of the coin, we find the striking image of the great American buffalo, also known as the bison, an animal that for centuries represented power, freedom, and the vast beauty of the great. Plains and Fraser based this figure on a living bison believed by many to be Black Diamond, a real buffalo from the Central Park Zoo in New York. And although historians debate the exact animal, the inspiration is clear. The buffalo stands firm, grounded, strong, solid, and noble, symbolizing the endurance and spirit of the American frontier. And in the 1920 issue, this bison often shows varying levels of strike sharpness, with details in the fur legs and hump that reveal how the minting technology of the time sometimes struggled to bring full depth to such an intricate design. Imagine holding a coin that captures the heartbeat of a nation at a moment when America was stepping boldly into the 20th century, a coin struck not just as currency, but as a declaration of identity, a tribute to heritage, and a symbol of a changing world. This is the 1913 Buffalo Nickel, a coin whose story begins long before metal ever touched the dies. A story woven from the vision of artists, the pride of a people, and the unstoppable march of a people, and the unstoppable march of progress. And if you stay with me, you will experience the full, incredible journey of how this iconic coin was born, how it evolved through controversy, challenge, and triumph, and how it became one of the most beloved and hunted pieces in American history. From its first strike in 1913 to the mysteries, debates, and discoveries collectors still chase today, the Buffalo Nickel stands as a masterpiece, forged from ambition, creativity, and cultural symbolism. And today we dive deep into every detail with a history so rich and captivating you could make a full-length documentary and still barely scratch the surface. To understand the Buffalo nickel of 1913, you must travel back to the early 1900s, when the United States was ready to transform its coinage art critics artists. Government officials and the public were pushing for coins that represented national identity rather than simple functional currency. After the revolutionary designs of Augustus St. Gaudens set a new artistic standard for gold coinage, there was a desire for more beauty, more symbolism, and more distinctly American imagery on circulating coins. This desire ignited a wave of redesigns that would eventually reach the humble nickel, which still carried the Liberty Head design introduced in 1883, design that had grown stale and no longer reflected the artistic ambition of the era. Enter James Earl Fraser, a brilliant sculptor born in Winona, Minnesota, whose early life on the Dakota frontier shaped his creative soul. Fraser grew up among the vast plains and the Native American communities that lived there, witnessing both the natural beauty of the land and the fading independence of the indigenous nations. His experiences forged an artistic vision centered on realism, struggle identity, and the human spirit. So when the opportunity came to redesign the 5-cent piece, he knew exactly what he wanted to portray. He envisioned a coin that captured the essence of America's western frontier, a coin that symbolized both the people and the animals that had shaped the story of the land long before city skylines and railroads rose across the nation. And so Fraser submitted a design unlike anything the Mint had ever seen. A powerful portrait of a Native American warrior on the obverse, struck with detail, strength, and dignity, and on the reverse, the mighty American bison standing proudly on a rugged plain. The design was bold, emotional, and culturally significant. It was a tribute to the first peoples of the continent and a reflection of the untamed West that still lingered in the national imagination. But with this masterpiece came immediate challenges. The Mint director Charles Barber, well known for his resistance to highly artistic designs, was quick to criticize Fraser's concepts, claiming the high relief would wear down too quickly and harm the coin's durability. But Fraser defended his vision, and after rounds of adjustments, revisions, and debates, the Buffalo nickel was approved for production in 1913, making it one of the most anticipated coin releases in modern U.S. history. When the first Buffalo nickels rolled out of the presses in early February 1913, public reaction was explosive. Crowds formed to obtain the new coins. Newspapers nationwide published stories praising the artistry and symbolism of the design. People cherished the coin instantly for its rugged beauty and cultural significance. But the celebration did not last unchallenged. The Mint almost immediately faced complaints: the date and the 5 cents. Inscription were positioned in high points of the design, which caused rapid wear in circulation. Banks, merchants, and even ordinary citizens noticed that dates were vanishing quickly, making the coin difficult to identify. Complaints poured into the treasury and pressure mounted to rework the design. This led to the creation of two major varieties in 1913, the Type 1 and the Type 2 Buffalo nickel. Type Y featured the bison, standing on a raised mound, a strong artistic choice, but one that exposed the 5 cents inscription to fast wear to solve the problem. Type 2 was introduced later in 1913 with the bison standing on a flat line or exergue, which offered more protection for the denomination. The changes created two distinct striking patterns for the same year, making 1913 one of the most studied dates in American numismatics. The Type 1 is admired for its raw artistic purity, while the Type 2 represents the Mint's attempt to balance beauty with practicality. Together, these coins launched a new era of U.S. coinage and set the stage for the Buffalo nickel to circulate for a quarter of a century through World War I, the Roaring Twenties, and the Great Depression. The 1913 Buffalo nickel was also a reflection of American culture at a time when the West still lived vividly in the nation's imagination. Newspapers, magazines, literature, and emerging Hollywood films romanticized Native Americans and the open plains. So when Fraser chose to base the Native American portrait on a combination of real historical figures, Iron Tail, Two Moons, and possibly John Big Tree, he created a composite image that symbolized strength, honor, and resilience rather than a portrait of a single individual. This decision added layers of meaning to the coin, preserving the identity of Native American culture for generations. In a single powerful image, the Buffalo, too, was modeled after Black Diamond, the famous bison from the Central Park Zoo. He was one of the most photographed animals of his time, and Fraser had studied him closely to capture the rugged power of the species, an animal that represented both American wilderness and the tragic decline of the once mighty herds. But beyond the artistry and symbolism, the 1913 Buffalo nickel experienced a life of constant criticism, adjustments, technical challenges, and public fascination. Mint workers struggled with the dies, which wore out quickly because of the intricate details. Collectors in later decades discovered countless varieties, errors, and striking anomalies that turned the Buffalo nickel series into a treasure hunt, including doubled dies, overdates, repunched mint marks, and unusual die cracks. Some specimens show dramatic clashes where the reverse image faintly appears on the front or vice versa, giving collectors clues about the struggles inside the Mint's early 20th century production rooms. These imperfections added depth to the coin's legacy, making the 1913 issues especially interesting for numismatists who cherish coins with stories embedded in their flaws. The Buffalo nickel's run from 1913 to 1938 revealed much about America. The coin witnessed monumental national changes, the entry into World War I, the post-war boom, the cultural revolution of the Jazz Age, and the harsh realities of the Great Depression. Yet through it all, the Buffalo nickel remained a symbol of rugged American spirit. Eventually, in 1938, the Mint replaced it with the Jefferson nickel, marking the end of Fraser's masterpiece in circulation, but the beginning of its immortal status among collectors. Today, the 1913 Buffalo nickel stands as one of the most iconic coins ever produced. Its historical significance, cultural symbolism, artistic brilliance, and rare varieties make it a captivating subject for every collector, novice, or expert. And when you explore its story in full depth, from Fraser's childhood to Mint controversies, from design challenges to public obsession, you realize that the Buffalo nickel is not just a coin. It is a chapter of American identity preserved in metal. It is a link between the modern United States and the fading frontier, a bridge between cultures and a testament to the power of art in everyday objects. And as we continue unfolding its story, piece by piece, we discover why this coin remains a timeless source of fascination, why collectors chase it with passion, and why the 1913 Buffalo nickel will forever be remembered as one of the greatest achievements in American numismatic history. In a world where every old coin holds a secret and every worn-down surface hides a forgotten chapter, the 1925 Buffalo nickel stands as a legendary artifact, a rugged reminder of America's untamed frontier and a symbol of an era that shaped the identity of a nation. And today we dive deep into the unforgettable journey of this remarkable coin. A story filled with artistic brilliance, cultural transformation, minting struggles, hidden varieties, collector mysteries, and the incredible rise in value that has turned this piece of 5-cent history into one of the most fascinating coins ever produced. And as this adventure unfolds, you will discover how one small nickel captured the wild heartbeat of early America, how it carried the image of a proud Native American chief and a mighty buffalo across millions of pockets during the Roaring Twenties, and how every scratch, every faded line, every surviving detail connects us directly to the people who lived nearly a century ago, starting with the coin's creation in 1913, when famed sculptor James Earl Fraser sought to break away from traditional designs and bring raw American heritage to life, using a composite portrait of real Native American chiefs and a powerful buffalo named Black Diamond. The design immediately captured public attention, yet it also faced endless challenges from the mint due to Die-Wear Week strikes and constant retooling, and by the time the year 1925 arrived, the mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco were locked in a battle against worn dies, constant replacements, and a demanding production schedule, making the 1925 Buffalo nickel one of the most telling markers of the series' technical struggles and triumphs. And as the crisp details faded from dies, the strength of the Native American profile, the sharpness of the braid, the definition of the feathers, the contour of the buffalo's hump, and the clarity of the ground beneath its feet changed with every strike, creating countless subtle variations that collectors would study for decades to come. The year 1925 also carried the weight of a shifting America, an age of expanding cities, roaring industries, booming automobiles, and powerful cultural changes. Yet in rural towns, frontier communities, and working-class pockets, the Buffalo nickel lived as a silent witness passing through. Train stations, farms, factories, and speakeasies becoming a real-time postcard of life during the vibrant yet challenging 20s. And throughout our detailed journey, you will discover the Philadelphia mint strikes known for their abundance yet prone to soft details, the scarcer Denver mint pieces recognized for stronger relief and better definition, and the rarest of the year, the San Francisco issues, where low mintages and weak strikes created one of the most collectible Buffalo nickels ever made, and this story will take you deeper into grading standards, how the coin transforms from good to fine, to very fine, to extremely fine, and finally to mint state, where luster brilliance and untouched surfaces push values into the thousands. And you will learn about full horn details, the importance of the buffalo's leg lines, the strength of the braid, and the legendary rarity of fully struck San Francisco coins that have become holy grails for top collectors. And as this long journey unfolds, you will step inside the mints, meet the engravers, follow the historical events, feel the cultural heartbeat of the decade, understand the strike issues, explore die erosion, review market trends, and witness how this single year of Buffalo nickel production shaped the legacy of American coinage forever. And by the end of this deep 2-hour exploration, you will not only know why the 1925 Buffalo nickel is treasured worldwide, but you will feel the history living inside it, the art beating through it, and the spirit of early America shining from it as we travel through the full story of a coin that refuses to be forgotten. The world of the 1925 Buffalo nickel. We move further into the landscape of its production, challenges its artistic soul, and the human stories that shaped every piece. Because every coin from this year carries echoes of the people who designed it, struck it, spent it, saved it, and eventually passed it down. And when we examine the heart of this coin, we find James Earl Fraser standing at the center, a man inspired by the fading frontier, who believed that America's coinage should reflect the true character of the nation, not mythology, not borrowed symbolism, but the real rugged legacy of its own land. And to capture that legacy, he traveled deep into his memories of the Dakota Territory, where he spent his childhood among the prairies, the cattle herds, the railroad workers, and the Native Americans who shaped his earliest impressions. And these memories carved the very soul of the Buffalo nickel, giving it a level of authenticity and power no other coin of its era possessed. And the Native American profile on the obverse, drawn from 3 real chiefs, Iron Tail, Two Moons, and Big Tree, became a national portrait that honored a culture often overlooked. And despite the mint's frustration with Fraser's high relief design, he refused to compromise the bold artistic message woven into every detail, and that resistance to change created the striking realities we now study in the 1925 issues coins, with strong high points, coins with soft impressions coins with blending features, all depending on the life and wear of the dies used at each mint. And if we zoom into the Philadelphia Mint floor in 1925, we would see teams struggling with rapid die erosion as the detailed lines of the hair, the cheekbone, the feather tips, and the buffalo's shoulder wore down quickly, forcing constant replacements and creating countless micro-variations that modern collectors analyze with extreme fascination. And in Denver, the story was different. The mountain air, the heavy workload, and the skilled mint workers created nickels with generally stronger detail and sharper horns. Yet even there, the design's high points faded too quickly, leading to incomplete strikes that today help experts determine die states and production sequences. And in San Francisco, the year 1925 turned into a struggle of its own, as low mintage numbers and tired dies resulted in coins that were soft-struck almost from the very beginning, leaving many pieces with weak horns, flat features, and indistinct ground lines, making fully struck San Francisco examples among the rarest treasures in all Buffalo nickel collecting. And as we drift further into the era, we discover the real world surrounding these coins. The bustling streets of New York, the industrial thunder of Detroit, the rise of Hollywood in California, and the expanding highways that carried families across America with coins, like these jingling in their pockets representing both survival and progress. And when these nickels passed through the hands of farmers, coal miners, mechanics, soldiers, immigrants, children, and travelers, each coin absorbed a little of their journey, adding spirit to the metal and connecting generations through touch and time. And as these coins circulated, countless stories unfolded: a child buying candy, a worker paying for streetcar fare, a family saving, coins in a small jar, a merchant counting change at dusk. And every transaction gave the 1925 Buffalo nickel more life, more meaning, more emotional weight, which we carry into the present day. And for collectors, the adventure only grows richer when analyzing grading levels, because a well-circulated coin tells a long story, but an uncirculated mint state coin reveals how the piece looked the moment it left the press, glowing with luster, shimmering with fresh metal, reflecting the design exactly as Fraser imagined it. And when we look at mint state examples from 1925, we see the brilliance of untouched surfaces, the rolling cartwheel luster, the crisp edges of the feathers, the strong curvature of the cheekbone, the smooth yet defined musculature of the buffalo. And these pristine coins remind us how beautiful the design truly was before the stress of circulation softened and reshaped it. And as we continue our 2-hour exploration, we travel deeper into the die varieties. The repunched mint marks, the subtle doubling on features, the diagnostic markers used by experts to authenticate rare versions of the 1925 strikes. In the collecting world, there exists a coin that does not just sit quietly inside an album, but roars with the voice of a nation fighting to define itself in the early 20th century. A coin born from artistry, conflict, innovation, and pride. A coin that captures the frontier spirit of America in a single powerful design. This is the story of the Buffalo nickel, and today we journey deep into the year 1919, a year of transition, struggle, and rebirth as the United States stepped out of the shadows of World War I and into a new era. And the 1919 Buffalo nickel stands as a metallic witness to that transformation, crafted during a time when America sought to honor its indigenous roots and celebrate its Western heritage. This coin holds drama, history, art, and mystery in every detail, and collectors today chase it not only for its monetary value, but for the cultural heartbeat preserved within the metal. So prepare yourself as we travel back more than a century to uncover how this legendary nickel came to life, who designed it, what inspired it, why it struggled in production, and how the 1919 edition became one of the most historically meaningful coins of the entire Buffalo nickel series. Because this is not just money. This is a story carved in copper and nickel, a tribute to a nation and a reminder of a lost world that still echoes through the corridors of American history. Our journey begins in the early 1910s, when the United States Mint sought to replace the long-running Liberty Head nickel which after decades of circulation had grown outdated, uninspired, and disconnected from the cultural identity the nation wanted to project. President Theodore Roosevelt had sparked a movement to beautify American coinage, and the Buffalo nickel became part of this artistic revolution. The Mint commissioned sculptor James Earl Fraser, a student of the legendary Augustus St. Gaudens, and a man deeply influenced by his childhood experiences on the American frontier. Fraser grew up in Minnesota near Native American communities, and frontier life shaped his understanding of the cultural struggles taking place across the nation. He had witnessed the last days of the buffalo herds and the fading traditions of tribes whose voices were being drowned by rapid expansion and modernization. These memories guided his hands as he sketched the earliest concepts for the new nickel. He envisioned a coin that honored Native Americans and the disappearing symbol of the American bison, capturing both strength and vulnerability in a single design. When Fraser presented the artwork, it stunned government officials. The obverse featured the powerful profile of a Native American man, not a generic image, but a composite created from several real tribal leaders whom Fraser admired, including Irontail, Two Moons, and possibly others. The face radiated pride, endurance, and resilience on the reverse. He sculpted a mighty buffalo believed to be modeled after Black Diamond, a famous bison living in the Central Park Zoo in New York. The massive shape of the animal standing firmly on a mound represented America's rugged natural heritage, something raw and pure unlike anything previously seen on U.S. coinage. But the beauty of the design created intense challenges for the Mint. From the moment the Buffalo nickel entered production, officials discovered that the high relief details caused rapid dye wear, and the inscriptions, such as the date and the words 5 cents, were prone to fading during circulation. The Mint made multiple small changes in the first years to improve durability, lowering relief, strengthening inscriptions, and adjusting Fraser's lettering. Despite these issues, the coin entered circulation in 1913 and instantly became one of the most visually striking pieces of American currency ever made. As we step forward into 1919, the United States stood at a major turning point. World War I had ended the year before, and millions of soldiers were returning home. Industries were shifting from wartime production to consumer goods, and the nation was preparing for the beginning of the Roaring Twenties. But beneath the excitement were deep social tensions, inflation, labor strikes, and political unrest. The economy was unstable, and coin circulation patterns reflected the shifting financial landscape the Buffalo nickel needed to keep up with rapidly increasing demand while still enduring the wear and tear of daily commerce. The 1919 Buffalo nickel was minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each producing coins with slight differences in quality and scarcity. Philadelphia produced the highest number, and its coins circulated widely, while the Denver Mint struggled with quality issues that resulted in many coins showing weak strikes, especially on the buffalo's horn and the Native American's hair detail, the san. Tier of daily commerce. The 1919 Buffalo nickel was minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each producing coins with slight differences in quality and scarcity. Philadelphia produced the highest number, and its coins circulated widely, while the Denver Mint struggled with quality issues that resulted in many coins showing weak strikes, especially on the buffalo's horn and the Native American's hair detail, the San Francisco Mint produced the lowest number, making the 1919 S one of the more sought-after issues for collectors today, though still not the rarest of the entire series. What makes the 1919 year so historically powerful is not just mintage totals, but the moment in which it was produced. This coin circulated through towns and farmlands. As America transitioned out of the war, its surfaces were touched by factory workers, railroad engineers, miners, immigrants, shop owners, and returning soldiers for them. This nickel was more than currency. It was the symbol of a rebuilding nation, a small but constant reminder that the frontier spirit still lived, even as modern life began to dominate the American landscape. The artistry of the 1919 Buffalo nickel continued to leave citizens captivated. Rumors spread about the inspiration for the Ao Native American portrait, with people speculating endlessly about which chiefs and tribes were represented. Fraser maintained that it was a composite meant to honor many rather than portray one specific individual, but many claimed cultural ownership of the image. The buffalo on the reverse also captured national imagination. Black Diamond's connection to the coin became well known, and spectators often visited the zoo just to see the animal that served as the inspiration, though historians debate whether Fraser definitively used Black Diamond as the model. The story became folded into American folklore, giving the coin a mythic aura. By the late 1910s. The Buffalo nickel had already become a cultural icon used in advertisements, illustrations, patriotic posters, and educational materials. Its appearance was so bold, so distinctive, that it stood apart from all other coins. Continued to battle the design's weaknesses. The date was deeply recessed into Fraser's sculpting and tended to wear off quickly, creating countless dateless Buffalo nickels that still appear in old coin jars. Today, collectors often lamented this, but it also added to the coin's mystique. Every worn Buffalo nickel felt like a survivor of a lost era, and every sharp 1919 example became a treasure of American heritage.